Welcome back to the Buffalo Plus channel. Dan Fates, Mike Catalana, I'm Jenna Cottrell. We are getting you ready. The Bills getting ready to leave for Sunday against the Dolphins down in Miami. Bounce back effort needed from the Bills. Mike, what do you want to see from this game?
I want to see the Bills play. I want to see the Bills offense on the field. No, seriously, they were so much fun to watch last year because they dictated. And I just think they got out of sorts. You know, it just, what did they used to call it? Biorhythms or whatever it was. They were off. Whatever it was off. They never felt right. I said when Josh ran, he should have thrown. When he threw, he should have run. It never worked. Dable didn't have a great day. Yeah. The offensive line was disjointed. Look, Pittsburgh had a lot to do with it, but I didn't see the team I know they can be on offense.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking for blame. And there's plenty to go around because very few people played well.
I
want to see them get that back a little bit. And I'll use the word, John Murphy, our friend, Bills, voice of the Bills, hates the word swagger. But I want to see the Bills get that swagger back on offense.
Stephon Diggs was asked where the Bills' offensive show was.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, it's the NFL. If you want a show, turn on TBS.
Did he really?
He did say that.
Yeah, that's what he said. He goes, if that's... If the
For family fun.
Yeah, so, you know, and I think this was the humbling experience maybe that they needed. And again, the Bills have said all the cliches in the world this week about it's just one game, there's 16 more to go, you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. All of those things. But I think this loss, if there was a good time for it to come, it's after they were paraded and showered in roses all off season about how they were the anointed as this Super Bowl contender, this darling team. They got a little humble pie by the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think so much you hear Sean McDermott say hungry and humble. They were humbled. Now they have to be hungry.
Yeah.
And we heard you talk about those cliches. The one I heard the most this week was it's never as good as you think and it's never as bad as you think, taking a look at the tape. And I think that's something that the Bills, look, the end result, I feel like, makes us feel like, wow, there's a lot of things that need to change. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely issues that need to be addressed. But at the same time, we know the talent level on this team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's that balance of focusing but not overreacting. But at the same point, if things don't go according to plan in Miami, then we're talking something completely different.
I do agree with that never as good, never as bad, because there are times when you do watch it back and you're going, oh, this worked out well, and that other team, whatever it happened to be when it goes well, and then when it goes poorly, you do feel like the whole thing was a disaster.
Correct.
And look, they're still rolling out there with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a lot of talent. This team is going to win a lot of games this year. I think in part, Jenna, it's the first game.
That's the hardest part.
If it happened week 6, it's a week, you move on.
Yeah.
You know?
There was that stretch last year,
but again,
back-to-back games where it was like, what's going on? But having it week 1 after the expectations,
like I said, I think on Twitter it was like Josh Allen all of a sudden isn't a top-tier quarterback and Brian Dable all of a sudden, that's why he wasn't a head coach. Like he is still a top-tier offensive coordinator.
See it put in Mitch.
He had a bad 4th down call. We're over it. You're moving on. We're on to Miami, like in classic form. This is what it is. And Jenny, you talked about all the cliches we heard.
Yeah.
What did Emmanuel Sanders say? You know, it's not as when the Bills are bad, you know, everybody's down on them, and then when they're good, they're the best thing since milk was invented.
So he's got a scoop there.
Milk was invented.
So the Bills are going to be thirsty for milk down in Miami.
I was going to say, all right, moving on to Miami. Dan, what stands out to you about their offense, about Tua Tagovailoa?
Look, this offense reminds me a lot of the 2019 Bills. A quarterback that doesn't know if he's going to go up or down, and a lack of real offensive talent that scares me for the Bills defense. Like, I like this Miami defense. I like their coaching staff. I like all those pieces. But there's not enough on this Miami offense that scares me to get in a gunfight with the Bills offense.
I will say this. With Parker and Waddle, you put them with Josh Allen, now all of a sudden they're more weapons.
Yeah.
I think
and Gesicki's good too as a tight end.
Yeah,
and they've struggled with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the problem is Tua look, I don't believe he's a dynamic player. And that's why, you know, I think that's why he's always looking over his shoulder. And it's not currently on the Dolphins, but he's looking over his shoulder at Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers next year, like whoever it is, because the Miami Dolphins think they're building a team. And if Tua doesn't show that this year, I think they're going to look to do something else. Yeah. So he's got pressure on him. And I think he's a good football player. I think he's a great teammate, all those things. But to Dan's point, he doesn't scare you with his passing game.
I think they think he can win, but I don't know if they think he can win big.
Yeah.
All right. let's get into our picks. Dan, we'll start with you.
Look, last week I wasn't overly sure that the Bills' offense would be ready to go week one, and well, I was right. Unfortunately, I was wrong on my pick of the Bills actually winning the game, but I think the Bills get back into that 30-point-per-game category here this Sunday. I really like the Bills. Look, Josh Allen has dominated the Dolphins, 5-1 in his career. He's faced them 6 times. He has been named the AFC Player of the Week offensively 3 of those times. So he's either going to get it this time or when they play him later in the season. I think it's this time. I really like the fact that the offensive line will work those kinks out. This Miami defensive line is not going to be able to get that much pressure on Josh Allen with just 4 guys. Josh has dominated them before. 31-21, Bills get back on track.
I think this is the perfect game for the Bills to have after the week 1 debacle because of how strong Josh has looked in Miami. And he brings that confidence going in. Like, we talked to him this week. We asked him, hey, do you feel like, you always seem to get the best in Miami? Do you believe that as a player? And you know Josh being Josh, he says, it's one game at a time. It was very much he just goes out there and executes the game plan type of answer. But at the end of the day, I also have the Bills winning this game. I have them bouncing back, and I think it's because of Allen and the frustrations that we saw last week against the Steelers. I think those errors that we saw, like you mentioned, Dan, the offensive line issues, I think those get corrected. Now, I will say I have the score being close, because I think I have it 27-24. I think weather will play a factor in terms of just in Western New York, the weather's just been completely different. Down in Miami, it's going to be 90. It's going to be really hot. It's going to be really humid. And Dan and I both know that the Dolphins bench, or excuse me, the Bills bench is directly in the sun.
I will say one thing, Jenna. It was hot and muggy not that long ago at Bills training camp.
I agree, but I just think
this is like they're playing in Miami in December.
No,
we were both at training camp.
Yeah, but think
sweating.
of how hot it is in Miami now.
Correct.
And the Dolphins work out in that every
Exactly.
day.
And
Correct.
I agree. I understand where you're coming from, but I just think it's going to be one of those things where a lot of the guys weren't, I don't want to say they weren't in shape, but fitness level and game shape, seeing the offensive linemen, hands on the hips, all of that stuff, that's something that concerns me.
It's where you worry about a guy like Deion Dawkins.
Correct.
And I don't think Deion
Packers
is 100% yet.
Yeah,
And we'll see if he is.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Bills. I like them to bounce back. I thought their offense would come out running. It didn't happen. I don't mean running the football. I mean getting the offense going. Josh Allen's going to bounce back this week. He's going to play well. He's too good of a player. He had a bad game. If there's anything concerning to me a little bit, the last 3 times we've seen this Bills offense on the field, they haven't been great. You go back to the playoffs, Baltimore and Kansas City, and then you go to this first game. I know they're months apart, but that's the last 3 times. I don't believe there's a book on them. Dan makes the point, the idea that that's not Miami. Miami has a lot of individual talent. They've drafted well with certain players, but I just don't think that team is there yet. And I think the quarterback keeps them back a little bit. So I've got Josh and the Bills winning at 31-20.
It's my favorite quote, I think, since I've ever covered the Bills.
Okay.
Micah Hyde back in 2019. Confidence is a hell of a drug. And if there's one team that Josh Allen and this Bills offense feels confident against, they won't admit it. They're not going to give the Dolphins bulletin board material to say, yeah, anytime we face those uniforms, we feel great. They're confident going into South Beach.
Yeah, I agree with that one. We'll have to wait and see. We're all 0-1 on our picks, but we're picking the Bills again this week. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Buffalo Plus channel. We always appreciate it. For Dan and Mike, I'm Jenna. We'll catch you later.